Hello, welcome everybody. Today I'm with Mark Tuttle. Mark, thanks so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Mark, just like a little introduction about Mark. Mark is a serial entrepreneur from California, currently lives in Vienna, and he has done so many things. I tried to write it all down, just a brief introduction. So he built music studios in California, had a web agency, an outsourcing company in India, a media agency which he sold. He was lecturer at a university. He built a tea company, a security company, is helping all sorts of other companies. So, Mark, how can someone like me, such a normal person like me, live such an amazing life like you did?
Well, I think the main thing is I like doing things as opposed to, I mean, there's a certain amount of thinking about them and planning them, but I tend to, I've been lucky and been able to get involved with a lot of different projects. I will correct you and just say I was an advisor on the tea company. On that part of it, I didn't build it. I was just an advisor to it.
All right.
But other than that, that was a great summary. Thanks.
So you said you were just involved in so many great companies or so many great projects, but how, for example, let's say I want to get involved in so many cool projects. Like, how do I get out there? How do I get involved in so many cool projects? Like, how did you do that over and over again?
Okay, well, to try to give you an answer that's helpful, part of it is that my father was a serial entrepreneur, so I always grew up with projects going on. Of course, as a kid, I wasn't really involved with them. Um, I did go to my first trade show with him for one of his companies when I was 12 years old. So I went to my first, professional trade show at 12 years old. I didn't need to learn that in school. I got a view to that world when I was very young. But for the most part, it started with projects always going on. So that was normal for me. And that's not normal for most people. So you have to first think, okay, what if projects have been going on all the time, right? Where you just, where there's just stuff going on, meaning start this company, have this idea, work on it a while, create a product or service, and then sell it to the intended customer. That was a normal kind of thing going on. So I took that as normal.
So
Now,
what would you recommend? Let's say my father or my mother they have like a typical job. So how can I expose myself as a young person or maybe even someone who already has a job? How can I expose myself to so many different projects if I didn't grow up like you?
okay, right. That's the part I was getting to. I was realizing the first part of the answer wasn't really useful, and that is
It
that
was.
well, it's who do you spend time with? Who do you network with? Who are your friends? Um, like when I meet people, the people I sort of naturally find interesting are the people that are doing things. It actually doesn't really matter what they're doing as long as they're doing something. Even if they have a job, they have a side project, right? They have a group of people that they're talking to about what are the cool new tech ideas that might be a candidate to turn into a company. Just people that are doing stuff. So if you use, for example, the internet is a great tool. I never had that in the early days, but you can find people that are working on things, and sometimes people need help on projects. They'll say, "Well, I need a little bit of research done on something," and instead of saying, "Oh, well, I wouldn't do that because my research is very valuable and I'd want them to pay me for it," you can think about this. Well, if I donate some research to this group right now, maybe they'll do something for me later on when I need it. And that's kind of the model that I found to be the best and that works for me, which is, find people that are doing stuff. Startup events are also good. Those are going on in a lot of different cities. Startup weekends, startup lives, which I do a lot of, different programs where you can go attend a startup event, and that's a great place to find some people that might be working on something that's interesting to you. And it may be that you don't get involved with that company, like join the company as a founder. That's a really heavy commitment,
Hmm.
but stay in touch with them, and they might say, well, we've got this software we're developing, and we think people will really like it, and we think it does an important job. And maybe you could say, well, when you got something early before you release it, I'll take a look at it if you want me to take a look at it. That's something where you're getting involved with a startup, you're offering a little bit of help. It doesn't cost you that much time, right? But then you're helping them out because you say, I'll take an early look at your software and I'll give you some feedback on it and just tell you whether I like it or not.
Yeah,
That's valuable to a startup. So offer a little bit and go to places where startups and people that are involved with things are hanging out.
Great.
Sorry, it's a really long answer.
Yeah. So to sum it up, it's more or less you'd advise people to maybe change the people they hang out with, and then in a first step, not go all in, but first start building up trust, like a trusting relationship by helping them out and not going all in, but saying like, look, I'll help you out, and then little by little see the relationship developing. And that's something what I also saw when I looked through your profile on LinkedIn. So because you never really jumped into one of these projects right away, what I realized is for every project you've been working in the industry for a few years before you jumped right in. So did you also, was it also the way how you found your partners? Let's say the recording studios, you even, Mark, I forgot to mention, you even built recording studios for 4 years, and then before that you were also in retail and sales. So was that an essential learning for you that you were in the industry involved for many years before, or?
Yes. I would probably word it a little bit differently and say that I was involved with retail, and I was selling things I was interested in, music systems, video systems. I thought they were cool, and so if you sell something that you're into, you're going to be a better sales guy, and you get to spend your time around the thing that you're interested in. So I chose hi-fi equipment, right, because I loved music. So my job was related to something I was interested in, and that got me very involved with sound quality. And I was also a musician. Part of me loving music is being a musician. So this sort of natural progression of going from selling hi-fi and being into sound, and then stepping into starting a recording studio with a friend of mine. He was a friend of mine already. We didn't meet cold and decide to start a studio. We were friends already, and we decided that we both had this interest, and we both had these skills, and experiences that we could apply to it. And we, funded it out of our own pockets, and we built up a recording studio so that we could record ourselves, and we could start recording other people, and make a little bit of money at it. And that just evolved. So, but the key thing is there was an interest there. I was interested in doing it. It wasn't a business for the sake of a business. It was a business for the sake of a passion that could also be turned into a business that made money.
So it's interesting, but were you usually struggling with all of these companies you started in the beginning, or were you like, most of it was bootstrapped probably, right? You said.
All of it was bootstrapped. Yeah, we totally struggled because, you have to do everything yourself. You have to get the resources. In the case of a recording studio, you have to find the right kind of building to put it into. It isn't like a piece of software where you can sit in your kitchen and write it. You actually have to have a series of rooms that sound good, that are coordinated in a certain way, so that you have the equipment in one room and you have the person speaking or singing or playing an instrument in another room, and you have to do sound treatment. I had to learn all that stuff, and then we had to actually find a location, and then we had to build it all out, and then we had to see if it worked. So it was very much an iterative process, and it was a lot of work. Nothing was easy. Yeah. You have to be willing to just kind of go for it, say, hey, this is important, this is exciting. If nothing else, I'll learn a lot, but I'll have a lot of fun doing it. And, I think I was probably 26 or 27, that was our 4th recording studio. We had now stepped up, all self-financed, and built a professional grade recording studio that any famous artist could come in and record and find useful.
So how many years did it take you to get from okay, I want to build record studios, to really be able to have the operations ready to start selling or start acquiring customers? Like, how many years was where was your dream planet in your head already before it got reality?
Okay, good question. I would say it was a long process. It wasn't that I had this strong idea that I wanted to have a recording studio. That wasn't the end goal. It was my love and involvement with music, working in retail, selling hi-fi equipment, and actually the next thing I sold was music equipment like synthesizers and amps and stuff like that. So it was like a kind of a path that ended up there, but it wasn't a specific time that I said, oh, I want to do a studio. We kicked around the idea of a studio for a while, and then we finally decided to do it. So that whole process from when we could charge money, from the first idea to where we could charge money, was probably like a 3-year process.
So, but you didn't really start off with the idea. It just grew organically, more or less, so, right?
Right, it grew organically out of my interests. In music, the things you could do to make money are make a band and go play live. That's one thing. You can try to record an album and get a record deal, or you can make a recording studio so that you can record yourself and work on your music. Plus, you can charge customers to work on their stuff for them, and actually have a living out of it. Yeah. So it's sort of like it was the best choice to stay involved with music and move ahead, versus being a rock star and getting a record deal, or going out and playing live, like gigging 2 days a week, playing late at night. That takes a lot of energy out of you. Yeah. You gotta love to play, and I'm more of a guy that likes to sit quietly with my piano. I'm not the Elton John guy up on a stage and singing and all that stuff. So yeah. I'm better in a studio.
So you were more or less not really following a goal. You were more or less following a theme, and the theme was more or less music, right? You didn't have the goal. Oh, I want to be the next whatever. Chris Rock or Chris Brown or whatever you want to call it.
Or Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin, yeah. I was thinking about your time, but then I got confused with the numbers. Okay, Led Zeppelin.
Because it's so long ago, right? Led Zeppelin was so long ago. So I would say this. It was a path. It was a musical path, and I would say that's a really interesting kind of point that you spurred here, and that is that a lot of the things that I've done have been getting on a path in a kind of direction, but not fixing a super strong goal and getting all focused on just hitting that goal.
Yeah, it was more about a theme, right?
Yeah, a theme of a path. And I've been involved with technology for a long time, and that's taken me a lot of different places. But the theme, as you're pointing out, the theme is being interested in technology and wanting to be involved with technology, and then different things pop up as you're walking down the path, and then you can decide, wow, that's interesting, I'll look into that more. Or no, it's not interesting, I won't look into it.
Yeah. So what happened? Did you lose interest in music, or why did you change your career and became more of an engineer, a designer, and all that kind of stuff that also got you started with your web company, Web Associates? Like what happened? What was going on then?
Well, I would say that I still like music. Okay, I have a piano in my office, right? I take a break every day at least once and kind of clear my head and play piano a little bit, and that's fine. So my interest in music and my interest in technology both existed, right? I was pursuing music, and there was a lot of technology involved with it. But after music, after the studios and those things, when I had done a lot of time with it, spent a lot of time with it, I got interested in some other things with regards to technology. So I just took a kind of a fork in the path or in the theme away from music, but still maintained myself with technology. Because after music, I got very involved with the new technology that was just coming on the market, which was 3D design on computer to make products. It's called CAD and different things like that. Mm-hmm. That was new and emerging when I was kind of coming out of music, and that was the next thing that I got interested in. And I spent 8 years dealing with design engineering and selling systems for doing computer-aided design for mechanical engineers, people making stuff, not electrical engineers, not people building bridges.
And how did you end up then with Web Associates, a full service web company, which is I read it on your LinkedIn, which is amazing. You were the first guys that were acquired HP and Lucent as customers, and as well as Apple. So like, how did that path go? Like, how did that even happen? How did you even find your partner?
Okay, well, so first of all, it's a good story, so that's a good question you asked. Yeah, and it was also one of my best successes, so I don't mind talking about it. So I was really involved with mechanical design in 3D and doing a lot of stuff with that. And a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, once again, it's the people that you associate with. A friend of mine called me up and said, "Mark, I'm in this university program. It is master's degree in technical writing." And he had to do a weekend project. They had to write something, and then they had to publish it in HTML on the university server, and then they were supposed to do that and get it done by Monday. And so, so this was in 1994. This wasn't standard practice. This wasn't like the web is now. So he called me up and said, "Mark, will you help me do this?" We spent the entire weekend working on it. And I had an early computer background. That's why he called me. So I started programming in the late 70s because I was interested in computers. At the same time, I was interested in music. So anyways, we spent the weekend doing it. We got it done. It was just a stupid thing, just a one page, no graphics, just text on a page. But it was really complicated because we hadn't done it before, and most people hadn't done it before. Well,
but how did you end up learning it? Like, how did that? I have no idea. Like, how do you do it? Because you didn't have any.
Hang on. Yeah, well, let me, I'll get to that. I'll cover that. So the interesting point was on Monday, out of his entire class, Dave was the only one that got the project done because he and I worked on it all weekend. And we said, wow, this is really special. What we were able to do, no one else in his master's program was able to do it. Oh, we learned something valuable. Maybe this is interesting. And that's how it evolved into a business. We said, the internet's coming. Business isn't using it yet, but business will use it. That was in thinking about it. We saw that. And so we, over a period of about a year from that first time, within a year, we had gotten a company formed. We'd gotten a little friends and family money, about $10,000, not that much. We learned and learned and learned. We had to teach ourselves an incredible amount. There was no book on it. There was nobody that had done it before. We had to figure it all out. So after that, we raised our first round of money, which was also friends and family money. That was 1995. And by 1996, we had gotten Hewlett-Packard as a client. They had just emailed us because we had a beautiful website. They'd contacted other consultancy firms about this project, and they said, well, these guys have a nice site. I'll send them an email. We responded back very quickly, like within 10 minutes of HP sending the email, they had to reply back, right? And an hour later, we were all on the telephone together talking about their project, and we figured out that we could do it, and they were willing to take a chance on us because A, we were really responsive, B, we told them we could do it and we would take care of them, and that turned into us landing Hewlett-Packard as a client. Now, getting a Hewlett-Packard for the first project was a great start, but we took such good care of our client at Hewlett-Packard that everyone in Hewlett-Packard, they had like 24 divisions at the time, they were all calling this guy, his name was Dan Adams, going, Dan, how'd you get that done? How'd you build that system on the internet? so guess what? Dan Adams all, hey, you just got to go talk to Mark at Web Associates. Yeah, and so he gave out our numbers. So we took care of that one client, worked really hard on him, learned a lot while we were doing it, okay, but took care of him and did a good delivery. And then the next 15 projects with HP all came from him referring people to us. So there was no sales pitch. There was no, anonymous, like, I don't know that customer at all. I was getting hot referrals from a guy that we had taken good care of, and that led to millions of dollars a year in business.
Mm-hmm.
and we also got a referral to somebody at Apple, and we took good care of them. We also got a referral to somebody at AT&T when Lucent Technologies was just spinning out of AT&T. And we did the first Lucent Technologies website, and then we did a technical system for their global sales organization. So part of it was just doing good work and getting referrals and always taking care of the customer. I'd say for any business, taking care of the customer, making sure they're happy, that's what's going to make a sustainable business.
It's really a great story, Mark. And I'm still astonished in how you can learn all of this stuff if there's nothing out there. So what do you say as someone, because I see you more like a person who you teach yourself all of this stuff, what do you think about formal education? Or like, because you're more like the I'm getting my hands dirty kind of guy. So what do you think about formal education?
Well, I think formal education has its spot. I myself am a university dropout. I started and spent 3 years at school after getting out of high school, and I changed my major 3 times, and none of it seemed to be a good use of my time. So electrical engineering, physics, and then music, and then it was like, I need to go out and do things, because this is kind of, this is not that interesting to learn things that you have an interest in, but that you can't really apply to the market or apply to a business or get a paycheck out of. So yeah, I dropped out of school and just started working at stuff. The quick thing that I, after the fact, thought up as a way of describing that is like, it's better to get paid to learn than it is to pay to learn. So instead of paying money to go to a school and learning, why not get a job where you're forced to learn something, right? Where you have to go spend 2 hours a day extra just so you can seem competent the next day when you show up at work. Do that, and then you're sort of forced to learn. And so that's what I did. I did a lot of jobs where I had to learn an incredible amount. That's how when I got involved with three-dimensional CAD, I knew nothing about it when I started. And by the end of my CAD career, we'll call it my design career of about 8 years, I was actually hired away from the sales company selling these systems by one of my clients to do a giant engineering project. So I knew what the software was and how it all worked. I also learned a lot about mechanical engineering because I was trying to sell to these guys, so I had to understand them. I had to learn all that and acquire all that information from the people I worked with, the stuff that I chose to do with my time. But by the end of that, I designed 2 parts for the very first electric car in the world at General Motors called the EV1. I designed 4 parts that were flying on the United States F-22 stealth fighter because I was in the right place at the right time. I worked hard.
It's really great, like the stories that and I might have to steal that one. I'm getting paid to learn. That's really a great approach to life. That like usually you start off, you don't know anything, and then you learn and get paid at the same time. So I might have to steal that one. So fast forward a few years, you sold Web Associates. And then you somehow ended up starting an outsourcing company in India. Like, what the hell happened? Like, why or how?
Okay. Well, I was I had left the management of the web company in 2002, and I had a wife and kids. I married an Austrian, and we decided to move out of California to like quiet down because California was like always busy. I was always getting phone calls with new projects and I was a hot ticket then.
But that was right after the internet crash, right?
Yeah, that was in 2002. So okay. I mean, it's a really long story. But anyways, moved over to Europe, and I got a consulting job because you got to make money to support the family. And after that consulting job was over, I had enough money in the bank where I could sort of coast for a while. And so I was trying to find something to do. And through LinkedIn, I met a guy in India, and he was young and really smart. And at 26 years old, this guy had started a company. His name is Suresh Padmanabhan. He had started.
All right, I don't think I can Google him, but
you can, Suresh. Anyways, so he had gotten into the recruiting business in India, in Bangalore. Bangalore is where a lot of tech people are and where a lot of people went to outsource tech. Anyways, Suresh at 26 years old had started a recruiting company to find employees for everyone that needed them, and had grown it. And the way he grew it was by franchising. So this guy at like 24 years old, he got this great idea that he could franchise his brand, okay, which was called Serlin, which is kind of a powerful Indian name. He could take his one office in Bangalore, well, actually he had 3 offices, but it was just workers spread around, and he could franchise it so that other people could sell recruiting services, and he would do the fulfillment out of his core offices. So that means somebody could go up to Chennai and they could open up a mature recruiting business, because recruiting was really hot, and Suresh got them to pay him as a franchisee. So they would give him like $5,000 or $10,000, open up an office in a new city, staff it, be professional, use his name, using Serlin, and they were in the recruiting business. So he expanded by having people pay for it with franchises. And he had, when I met him at 26 years old, he had like 24 offices all over India, and he was the largest recruiting firm by offices in India. And the guy's 26 years old. So I said, you know what? Amazing. I got to do something with this guy. This guy's clever.
That's amazing. So how come it didn't work out, or did it work out and you sold it? What happened?
Well, it didn't work out. Okay. I won't go into details, but I'll just simply say that the people that we needed to, it was a recruiting business to provide remote teams that would sit in India that would work for companies in California, because California always has problems finding engineers, software engineers and things like that. Yeah. So that was the idea. That was a problem we were trying to solve. What ended up happening was it all looked good. It all worked well until we started getting client orders for teams. And at that time, the Serlin side of the business couldn't get enough good quality candidates, because HP had just opened up in Bangalore and Accenture had opened up. They were called Anderson Consulting back then. General Electric, everybody had opened up offices in Bangalore, and they were hiring all the good guys. So we had a supply problem, and so we shut the business down.
Yeah. So what was it like working with India? Was it as terrible as one can imagine, or was it smooth? I have no clue how it is like working with people in India. How did that work? Was it, okay. What did you learn?
Okay, well, let's put it this way. The difficulty in working with India is if you don't understand the Indian approach to life, right? They're in a different world. They have a different history. There, in general, probably the most frustrating thing is, and I had worked on an Indian project with my consulting work I did before the Serlin remote business, the Teams business. And basically, they are very, very quick to promise things, and they're very slow to deliver things. So if you understand that, and you know if they say, you know, if you hear, no problem, we'll have it done in 2 days. Yeah, they will do it. It probably won't be as good as you want it to be, and it'll be done in a couple of weeks. Okay. So if you understand that, right, that they're very excited and they'll promise it early, but they have a hard time delivering, at least in the ones that I dealt with, the different situations. It's fine. It's just a matter of needing to have the right understanding.
It's interesting because I had a similar experience when I had my company in China. What I realized is the same thing. They promised really quickly, but then it needed a lot of micromanagement. So you really needed to tell them exactly what you wanted. And then the results, it sometimes might even have been better than the stuff we did in Europe or in the US, which was astonishing. But it needed a lot of micromanagement, like very, very, very similar to the stuff that you said. So,
yeah, I would say, hands-on. It's when you have an enthusiastic resource that doesn't have your kind of background or doesn't have the same sort of social meanings about or so understandings that you do when you say, well, I need a relational database. These are the 3 tables I see, and this will drive this will drive that, that'll drive that, and we need a user interface for managing each one. Get busy. That might be enough to tell a German programmer, or it might be enough to tell an American programmer. But the Indians, in the case of, if they don't have experience doing complex projects, they've just learned database creation in school, but they haven't done any real projects.
So they're more like Mark Tuttle. They learn on the fly, right?
Well, they need to, because the school doesn't teach them that much.
Yeah.
All they can do is educate them without giving them really any practical experience. So in a way, they're learning about what they're doing, but they also don't have resources around there to try to figure out stuff quickly on their own. They need more guidance, just a little more guidance. So, it's a matter of just needing to spell things out. And a lot of American engineers are the same way. What I see as I'll say, putting on my business hat, if I'm designing a web system and needs to do these things, the technical, I don't really care about it. I don't want to know what's the interplay between these 3 different database tables, and what's this 4th table that you've created over here that does this. I trust the tech guy that he's going to do it the right way. But in some cases, engineers don't understand the business application of it. They just don't relate to that. So you do have to spell it out. So same is true with American engineers. You got to spell stuff out on the technical side to get what you really want. And that's one of the skills that I picked up along the way, is I understand enough about the technical things, and I understand a lot about the business things, and I end up being kind of a bridge between technical and business. And so they stick me in the middle to try to make those things go smoothly. And we did a lot of that at Web Associates.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So what I forgot, like something that I also wanted to know, like how the hell did you end up in the diamond business? Why did you build the first B2B online diamond trading platform worldwide? Like how did that happen?
Because it was interesting.
Mark, you cannot always tell us that it was interesting, because how do you find those things? It's just amazing. And also for the listeners, like how do you find these things? Like it's amazing. Like how do you do that?
Well, okay, in the diamond business, once again, it's in a way, I'm probably sound like a broken record, but it's like my network of people. It's the people that I hang out with. Just like I've mentored with you at different startup events, and we've stayed in touch. And now you asked me to come on your show here, and I'm totally happy to do that, right? Because we did other things where we got connected, then I was an option for your interview today. Mm-hmm. So in the same way, the diamond business, my Austrian that I married back in the 1990s, she had a really good friend that was in the diamond business. Well, I was, I mentioned earlier that I had a pretty good brand in California with regards to web things and having HP and Apple and blah blah blah. And so this friend of my wife of the time, he contacted her and said, "Hey, I think this internet thing's interesting. I want to do something with diamonds on it. I want to try to move, exchange diamonds with the customers. And I see like 3 or 4 main improvements that we could do. Can I talk to your husband?" And she's like, "Okay, I'll arrange a meeting." So he actually flew to San Francisco, and we sat down, and we had like a 3-hour first meeting. Got along really well. His name is Sandy Ray. And he kind of explained what he wanted to do, and I said, "That's great." I said, I'm interested in this, but what I'm really curious is to learn all about the diamond business. Okay. Like, what is the diamond business? So if I can get that out of this, I'll help you build this, and I'll be a founder of this company, a co-founder with this company. And it went on for almost 2 years, and it was the same time I had Web Associates, so I was actually doing 2 things at once. Wow. It means I didn't get much sleep. Also had a wife and 2 kids. So, I mean, it's like, I just did a lot. I like to do things. So got involved with that, and I was being brought over in Antwerp, Belgium is the main diamond market in the world, the traditional diamond market. And that's where all the business is really done. It isn't New York, it isn't Tel Aviv, it isn't Moscow. It's it's in Brussels. And so, sorry, not in Brussels, but in Belgium, in Antwerp, right? So anyways, I had a ponytail halfway down my back. I was this web whiz guy from California, and Sandy was introducing me to these old traditional diamond people, right? And this is a conservative business. And between Sandy and I, we were able to make them feel comfortable that they would put their diamonds on our platform. So we collected all the main producers of diamonds in Antwerp that were interesting, that were all from Sandy Ray's 40 years of business in diamonds, and his father and his uncle's business in diamonds. So we had like the inside, we were the guys to do this because we had the inside connects through Sandy's family.
So you needed an inside connection, right? You needed some trust first.
Well, yeah, especially in the diamond business. This is not a trustworthy group. You have to earn your trust. Just as a side note about the diamond business, it's still, to this day, it's very interesting. They don't use contracts. They don't use lawyers. They use the handshake. And if you're a traditional diamond guy, you'll go to Antwerp. What Sandy was doing was replacing his job with the website. His job was every 3 months, he would go to Antwerp. He would go around to the diamond producers, and he'd get a briefcase full of diamonds, a lot of diamonds. And then he would fly back to the U.S., and then he would travel around to jewelers. In this case, it was on the East Coast.
Like, did they have a bodyguard or anything? Or
no, you don't broadcast and say, hey, I'm carrying a bunch of diamonds, and I don't have a bodyguard, and I don't have a gun, right? You don't broadcast. It's all very secretive.
Okay.
So you don't know. Sandy carrying a briefcase could have a laptop in it, or he could be carrying $100,000 or $200,000 worth of diamonds. You don't know that.
But how do you even get that on an airplane? How do you? Because you're usually only allowed to carry like 10,000 in cash or something like that. So
yeah,
what do you do
but
if you have a
if
few
you're in
billion?
the diamond business, you're filing stuff ahead of time. You don't show up at security and go like, hey, I got $200,000 worth of diamonds, but hey, I'm a diamond dealer. Here's my card. You don't get that. It's all done very quietly. Right? So lots of stuff's done that way. You don't even know what's going on. You may be sitting in economy, and a guy sitting next to you has a briefcase that he's nervous about, and he sits there. He doesn't want to sit in first class because he doesn't want to stand out, right? He might have $250,000 worth of diamonds in it.
Yeah, or maybe as much as the plane is worth, right?
Probably not that. You know, there's services like Brinks. That's how we delivered our diamonds, was Brinks and FedEx. So, you know, we would, in our business, a customer in the U.S. would need some diamonds. He would prepay for them, and then we would send him over from Antwerp over to his location in the U.S. That was replacing the guy that was carrying him on the airplane. So the difference is that our customers had access to thousands of diamonds to choose from, whereas in the old model with Sandy carrying his briefcase every 3 months, he would have 20 or 30 diamonds to choose from. So we allowed people in the U.S. to choose. This was business to business. So we allowed the jewelers to have a much bigger assortment of diamonds from different manufacturers that would all be shipped directly to their offices in a secure way. And if they looked at them and didn't like them, they could get a full refund on the money that they paid, except for one-way shipping. We would pay one-way shipping. They would pay one-way shipping if they didn't want to keep the diamonds.
Okay, so the new thing was that first of all you could take a look at them online, and then the first shipping, and then they could reject it. Whereas before you didn't see anything, and then you had to pick whatever you got, right?
Well, you know, you picked the old method was you sat down with the guy that imported him, right? The guy with the briefcase, right?
Yeah.
You sat down with him and you looked at what he had, okay? And I'll just say, if the jeweler needs, say, 5 1-carat matching diamonds, right? Matching in cut and matching in quality, okay? Because he's making up a special piece for Ivana Trump, let's say. I'm being theoretical here, okay? Right. So to get those 5 1-carat stones that all match each other, the same color, the same clarity, which means the same price range, to get all 5 of those, it might take him a couple of months to collect those from his guys that he knows with briefcases that are coming over from Antwerp. Whereas in our solution, he can go online, he can look at an inventory of thousands of diamonds that have just been put up there. As soon as the cutting and polishing is finished from the producer, and they're lab certified, which takes about a week, as soon as that lab certification comes back, we would scan the lab certification, all the documentation, and it was available to our people on the way we did our system before anybody else was able to offer it. Because in the old model, the guy has to carry a briefcase from Antwerp over the US and then show you the stone. Ours was all real time, and so that guy looking for 5 1-carat stones that match, he could spend an hour or an hour and a half looking through our database, find the 5, say, okay, all right, I got to send the payment ahead of time, so he wire transfers over to us, let's say, $20,000 for the stones, okay? A couple days later, those 5 stones are collected from the different suppliers that have made them in Antwerp, shipped to him securely, and show up in their lab certified packages. He looks them over, says, okay, that's great, deal's done.
So
it's
you
just
pretty
way
much
more
cut out the middleman as well, right?
Right, we cut out the middleman. Yes.
Great.
Do you want to know what our critical failure was in the business?
I was about to ask, like, why it sounds so brilliant. It sounds like you're a freaking billionaire, but what happened?
It was brilliant, and the more I got into it, first of all, I learned all about the diamond industry. I mean, I know how it works, and it's mostly secret to everybody.
So we should probably talk. We should talk about it afterwards. Maybe that might be an interesting industry to get into.
Well, let's put it this way: if there's a lot of people that are trying to get into it, it's the wrong industry to get into. I don't like competition. We had no competition at the time.
All right, so I'll cut this diamond part out of it, so the listeners won't hear that.
Okay, no, leave it in there. That's fine. I mean, diamonds are interesting for everybody.
Yeah.
So, and they are a girl's best friend, as they say. So, anyways, the critical failure was, a little while ago, I said it was all done on handshakes, right? Everything was your word shaking on a deal, and that deal is a contract, an agreement. They don't have written stuff. If you screw up one of those deals, you are out of the business forever. So call this the old school model for having trust. Mm-hmm. You say something and you do it, you're fine. If you say something and it goes a little bit haywire, right? Or you're not honest and you try to pull the wool over someone's eyes or whatever, you are now out of the diamond business forever. So everybody that's in the business always only says things that they can keep their word on. They never make a promise. They never take product like diamonds if they are not intending to pay them back exactly the way it needs to be done. So I'm just setting up, that's a trust model that they've got.
Okay.
Way stronger than eBay, right? Okay. So when you have that kind of a trust model, the guy with the briefcase, he doesn't buy the $200,000 worth of stones. He goes to Antwerp, and the diamond producers, they've done business with him before. They trust him. They'll go like, hey, if I give you can take $50,000 worth of stones. I need the money back in 4 months. Okay? They provide the credit because that trust level is so high. Mm-hmm. So the guy that's carrying the briefcase, right? He goes over, maybe he deals with 4 different suppliers, and he's got his $200,000 worth of diamonds. And he's got 4 months to pay it back. Let's just say that's the standard terms, right? He's got to give him the money for those diamonds within 4 months. He goes to the U.S., and he's got jewelers and stuff that he's worked with for a while. Once again, this trust model. And one of the jewelers will say, well, I need to buy a couple of stones for current projects. That's good. But that really nice 4-carat stone you got there that the guy with the briefcase needs to collect $20,000 for that one stone, right? He'll actually front it to the jeweler and say, put it in a nice setting, put it in your window, I'll give you a month to try to sell it. Mm-hmm. So then the jeweler also has gotten financing.
Okay.
So you see how the model that we couldn't reproduce was all this exchange, all this credit that everybody gave each other because of the strong trust model.
Yeah.
So we had to get cash from people up front, and that was just, they were used to getting flexible financing, as it were. Once again, if they screw up one time, they will be blackballed from the diamond business. So people don't screw that up.
So did you end up screwing something up, or what was it, or what were you not able to do? Like I didn't quite get it.
Okay, the point is that we couldn't extend that kind of funding.
Ah, okay.
Right? So that was the extra component that we tried to replicate with normal banks to provide these lines of credit, but it was too complicated. So the traditional diamond business, the negative things that we were overcoming, we were giving people great selection, fast delivery, right? But we weren't able to be creative on the funding.
Yeah.
Because the example of that jeweler in the U.S. that needed 5 1-carats, okay? Now he's going to take those diamonds, he's going to set them into some jewelry piece, he's going to sell it to the client and collect the money. That might take him 30 days. It might take him 45 days, okay? If he's got to pay for those diamonds up front, okay, that's a big cash flow dip.
Yeah.
If he could, in fact, deal with the guys with the briefcase and get 2 months to pay for those, meaning credit for 2 months, and not really in any interest or anything. It's just about, people weren't making money on the interest, right?
Yeah. So you couldn't really you couldn't replicate that system with a bank, because a bank, someone who wants to give you money in a bank, he doesn't really write a check for people or for businesses that are based on handshakes.
Right. They don't. Yeah. Banks don't trust anybody.
Yeah.
Right. They can't do business the way they're doing business with trust. They have to have things, collateral and signatures and all this stuff. So that was our main challenge with the diamond business. But we ran it for a couple of years, and you know, I was the CTO, so I was responsible for designing with the other team and implementing the whole online part of this, the database for the diamonds, the way we do transactions, where we hold their certificates, how the user browses them, all that stuff, keeping it secure, because this is only for jewelers to look at, not John Q. Public. You don't want John Q. Public, the normal person, to understand how does the business of diamonds and the markups of diamonds, how does that work?
Yeah, now we all know.
Well, and then you know a bit more.
Yeah.
That could be a long talk and another time.
I'll invite you for another podcast. So, okay. Mark, what are you working on right now? Because I have no idea where to start. You're just involved in so many different things. You're still involved in a security solution. You're have mentored hundreds of startups in the past few years. So what is the stuff that you're working on right now? What is like really the most important thing, except your wife or current girlfriend? So what is the one thing that keeps Mark Tuttle's head busy spinning at the moment?
Well, a little while ago it was divorcing that woman, divorcing that first wife, which was good. We weren't able to live together anymore. I'll just say that. Okay, what I got going on right now is I've been working on a security startup called Cryptographics, which I think I showed you one time, and that is a new approach to logging in to online things, and it uses images, and the technology comes from a security company called BioG, and I'm involved with BioG also. That's in California. So we got a bunch of patents and super smart security guys, and they developed a totally radical easy way to log into things using pictures. Works great on mobile phones, works great on the internet, and we've got a total of 9 patents that back it up, so people can't just copy the idea and all the security. So working on that, that's just about built. We've self-financed building it out, and we expect to be releasing that. So that's important. That's important thing number one.
Are you raising funds for that, or are you just going to bootstrap it?
No, we will when we have it finished.
Okay.
But nowadays, everybody likes to see things finished and working, or I should say, minimum viable product, right? That's a common phrase. They want to see it working so that they get how it works and they can look at it and see if it's elegant and cool. So we'll get a much better valuation for investment if we've got it built and working and have a couple of people using it. So that's our current path that we're on. We tried to raise money a year ago to build it, but the investors all wanted to see it, and we just couldn't get much interest. We didn't find the right people that would pay for the building the system based on our ideas and our patents.
It would probably also have been like a very low valuation, right? Because you didn't have anything, so the risk was really high, and investors wanted to hedge their risk by taking a bigger chunk of equity.
Right, exactly, and that's the case. I often say that an idea becomes valuable as you make progress on realizing it. So just an idea, that has the lowest value. An idea with 6 months of working on it, that has a lot more value. So so I say ideas are kind of cheap, and execution is what gives ideas value. So that's an important thing that I say to people when I'm coaching and mentoring them.
Yeah, that's true. And but again, execution is made up of like hundreds of ideas, right?
Yes, that's true. And also, you try to choose a path to moving the idea forward and developing it that doesn't cost you very much money. It may cost you time, but it doesn't cost you money. So if you require money, you're going to be sitting around going, I can't do anything until we raise our money. And the investor's going to say, wow, you haven't been doing anything since I first talked to you 3 months ago. You guys are still waiting for money, huh? Oh, no progress? That's not a very good story. Right? So, okay, now the second thing that's really interesting right now, it's really important, and that is that I've been working with the Pioneers Festival people in Vienna for a long time. That's you're aware of that as well, but that's one of the most respected startup festivals every year in Central Europe, actually in all of Europe. And anyways, so we have a program that's called Pioneers of the Balkans, and this is in partnership with the World Bank. And so I'm a mentor with this. I'm not the manager. I didn't develop it, anything. I'm just helping out with mentoring. And this is a program to work with 300 startups in the Balkans and try to get those businesses from ideas, make progress on them, and have those turn into companies that are viable. So we're going to be working with them, and we'll be doing some events in the Balkan countries, Kosovo, Croatia, Serbia, Montenegro. I think also I'm not involved with the planning of the events. And anyway, so that's what I'm working on right now. And starting on September, I'll have probably 15 to 30 startups that I'll be working with simultaneously to make progress on their idea or their business. And that'll be mostly done over Skype because I'm in Vienna and they're all over. Ex-Yugoslavia is a big country, so I don't want to travel all the time. We'll just use Skype to communicate and do the mentoring, and they'll exchange documents and show me stuff, and I'll suggest, well, I'm not clear on this. What do you mean by this? Have you thought about this? Just kind of going through the material with them.
Cool. So Pioneers of the Balkan, or what's the URL? Or
the URL is pioneersofthebalkans.io. It's pretty much out there. So if you type in something close to that, Google will find it. Right, if you're anyone that's listening, that is a startup or the beginning of a startup, and you're located in the Balkans, right? Everyone that fits that criteria can sign up for the program, and it's free. World Bank's paying for it. So just go. Hey, gotta love that.
That's true.
I said earlier, you have to make progress without spending money.
I'll also apply to that.
Right, go for it.
Oh no, I guess I'm also a mentor. I cannot. So, Mark, one last question.
Really, is there only one last question?
One last question. So, let's imagine Mark Tuttle, 26 years old, or maybe 26 years old, just graduated, or Mark Tuttle, 45 years, stuck at a job you don't like. What would you do today? How would you start from scratch? What would you do today?
Okay, good. That's a really good question. I haven't really thought about that, but I'll give you some thoughts on it. Let's say if I was stuck in a dead-end job, I didn't have my background of startups and all that stuff I'd done. I would look around for opportunity. there's an approach of trying to, quote, make opportunities, and there's an approach of kind of looking around for opportunities. I would look around for opportunities, and an opportunity should have something that involves some skills that I have, something from my experience, right? I'm going to be a lot more valuable to a project if I've had some experience in that topic. If I'm a software programmer, if I'm a game developer, or if I've worked in retail, or if I've spent a lot of time doing sales.
So wait a second. So would you create the opportunities yourself, or would you look for opportunities?
I would start by looking for opportunities.
Okay.
Okay. And when you looked around for opportunities, okay, an opportunity can be there's something all ready to go. You show up at the right time, and you become a co-founder, and you become a millionaire in 3 years after an exit. Okay, that's the opportunities like that aren't around. But opportunities to maybe I like startups, so with the startup environment, but but look for opportunities where you're bringing value because of your previous experience or your education. If it's easy if you're technical, if you're a programmer, okay, there's a lot of startups that need programmers.
Yeah.
If you're a business guy, there's a lot of technical startups that don't know how to sell stuff. They don't know how to do marketing.
Yeah,
they
so
don't know how to talk to people.
It's really about getting your ass off the couch, getting out there, showing up, showing your face over and over again, right? So that's what you're saying.
Yes. Talk to a lot of people, share ideas, find out what they're doing, tell them what you're doing, and see if you see some kind of way of working together. Mm-hmm. So you do have to do stuff. There's nothing comes to you by sitting in front of your computer. You got to get out of your office or your house or your cellar or your bedroom, and you have to just go be social and talk to a lot of people. And there's a lot of events to do that. So do that, and you'll find stuff. Maybe you'll find an interesting job. Maybe you'll find a startup that you could work with. Maybe you'll have an great idea about why are they doing this way? They could do it on the internet, and I can envision how that would be, and it'd be a lot better. Okay, now I have that idea. Now, what would it take to kind of put that together? That's the difficult part. So,
all right. So what would Mark tell the fresh graduate? What would Mark tell do?
You have to tell me what I studied in school.
Whatever your passion was.
Well, okay, I started in electrical engineering. Let's say I graduated in electrical engineering. Well, first of all, there are a lot of jobs for electrical engineers because there aren't that many around. Okay, but if I didn't want to get a job, if I wanted to say, let's say I had a rich grandma and she was saying, why don't you take a year and look around and see what
No, we don't have a rich grandma. We have a poor
rich
grandma.
Grandma, okay.
Poor family.
Poor family, right? But I have my degree in electrical engineering.
Yes, that's all you got.
And I don't want a job, right? I don't want to get a normal job. I want to do a startup thing, right?
Or both of them, like our hybrids, whatever. Like I'm talking about Mark Tubman.
Okay, so I've always done more than one thing at once. So I'd probably find an interesting job so I get money coming in the door, right? Got to keep the money flowing, right? But working 7.5 or 8 hours a day certainly leaves you with 4 hours a day that you can work on something else, right? So you might attend some startup events, right? Like, there's events all over the place. No matter what city you're in, there's some kind of a startup event happening. Also, you can travel a little bit. Like go to Berlin. Berlin's really hot. Go to Vienna. Vienna's good. Prague, Budapest. All those cities have a big startup culture that's going right now. So go to some of those things. Go to a Startup Live. That's the Pioneers brand startup event that I've done 30 of or so, where we met. Go to a Startup Live. Spend the weekend there. It will be the most amazing weekend you've had because it isn't like university, and it's in the case of Europeans, they just haven't been around that kind of group of creative, open-minded people that are helpful and interesting. So, I mean, I would definitely go to Startup Live. Startup weekends are the same kind of thing. Go to a startup weekend. There's a lot more of those than there are Startup Lives.
So you would first of all make sure that the cash flow is coming in, and then start planting seeds, right? Yeah, we got it right.
Mm-hmm. Building your network. I would call it building a network. Meeting people that are interesting, and some of them will have interesting things that you might want to work with. Some of them will know about other projects that you might be interested in. You have to ask people for referrals or ask people if they know anything that you could be working on. Because out of talking to 10 people at a startup event, you might run into one person. Remember, I'm an electrical engineer, right?
Yeah.
They'll go like, hey, I know this startup. I heard about this startup in Berlin, and they just got $1 million funding. Sorry, €1 million funding.
That doesn't happen that often in Berlin. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just saying, whatever they got. I'm just saying they got some funding, and they've got to make an electronics piece of equipment. Let's say it's something that you use for tagging your valuable things, a little teeny card that's got a chip in it that you're going to put in your, maybe fit on your bicycle, maybe put in your backpack with your computer, and allows you to track it on your cell phone. That's just an example of a startup. And he said, why don't you talk to Bob? Bob's the engineer they've got. They really need an electrical engineer, right? They need someone to help them with their hardware. So, hey, I just graduated in electrical engineering. I'd give him a call and see, do I match up with what he needs? He'll say, well, we've got a little chip we need in here, and we need a battery, and I don't know what battery we're going to use. Hey, if you could come up with our battery, that'd be great. Would you mind just looking at that? Because I don't know what to tell people right now.
Yeah.
And that would be something you could do for free, where you spend a week on it and then come up with what are all the battery solutions, how long will they last, all that stuff. And you're donating some time to help out a startup. But guess what? If you've donated a little time like that, when they need somebody, you're going to be first on the list because you did a little something for them.
Yeah, they'll remember. Wow, Mark, that is exactly the stuff you said in the beginning. I even wrote it down, like build up trust first and helping out.
Yeah, don't be scared to help people.
Even for free, right? Because it might pay off later on.
Right, that's always worked for me. There's a number of cases where that's worked out for me. So.
It also worked pretty often for me. Well, yeah. Mark, thanks so much again for your time. I could really continue doing this for 5 or 6 hours, but I guess you also got to work on some other stuff. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
You're very welcome, and I would look forward to being on an additional show if you find some value in that.
About the diamond industry.
We could do the diamond industry.
All right, Mark. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.